We're talking to quarterback Miller Moss and one of his dynamic receivers, Zachariah Branch, who was also the top return specialist in the country last year. Gentlemen, it's great to be with you. I know we're in the dog days of fall camp, but September 1st and LSU will be here before we know it. 10 practices in for both of you. What have you learned about this team?
I've definitely learned a lot about this team, going into the season and also in summer workouts as well. I feel like we always had the chemistry, the team chemistry. It was just going out there and putting it together on the field. Our coach always preaches, we're all one team on the end of the day. So, just competing day in and day out to get better and go to that ultimate goal.
Yeah, Zach obviously touched on it, but I think throughout camp, you learn so much about your team and who you are going into the season. And I think one thing that's really stood out throughout camp has been the back and forth between offense and defense, and I think that's usually a sign of a really healthy and competitive team. So I'm definitely excited about that and excited to continue to see that going forward throughout the rest of camp.
We're going to talk a lot about the offense, but since you brought it up, let's talk about this defense, because that was one of the issues last year that kind of kept this team from getting to where they wanted to go. Right. What have you seen from that side of the ball, Miller?
I think the biggest thing is just their energy and mindset. Obviously, schematically, we've improved dramatically, but I think the energy and the competitiveness that they bring on that side of the ball, and I think the additions that we've made, along with previous guys that have been here previously stepping up, have really made an impact. So, obviously, it doesn't mean anything till we go out on Saturdays and execute, but I'm excited about where that group is at.
Everybody's talking about what you guys lost, especially in the whiteout room, but I don't think anyone's talking enough about what you guys have there, particularly the sophomore class is sensational. So give me a little scouting report, and for both of you, again, what is special about that room and your class in particular?
Yeah, I think we have a special group in that wide receiver room, especially Kyron Hudson. He's our older guy, veteran guy in that room, and, he makes sure everybody's on point and just keep us going. I feel like all of our young guys as well, we all keep each other going with the energy. I feel like that's something that is big in our room. We have a lot of guys with good personality, a lot of great energy, so I feel like just having that consistent energy with each other is something that's going to propel our room and propel our team as well. So I'm really excited for this future, for this season. We've been working this offseason in the fall camp as well. I'm just excited for this season.
Yeah.
Sure.
Energy is huge. Chemistry also critical for a quarterback and his targets. So Miller, for you, and we've talked a lot about it, and I've told you this many times, but I just love your story. You're an LA kid. You stayed through a coaching change. You sat behind Caleb Williams for 2 years, and then you had your first career start last year in the bowl game and just showed everybody what you can do. Where is your sense of your command of the offense right now, your comfort level, your confidence? Where have you grown the most since you made that first career start?
Yeah, I'm going into year 3 with Coach Riley, so I feel really comfortable and confident in terms of not only our system, but how he views the game and how he wants to attack teams week to week. I think the biggest thing is just for us to bring the offense along as a whole. Like Zach said, we have great leaders in the room. You talk about Zach, Kyron, Jonah on the offensive line. So I'm really lucky to be surrounded by a phenomenal group of players, and I think our ability to stay composed and execute week to week is going to be really important.
We're going to talk to Coach Riley later about just the quarterbacks that he's mentored and that he's helped develop. The list is impressive, and now you get to learn from underneath him. What is it? We know that the way that he sees the game is unique, right. But can you describe the secret sauce? What allows him to get the best out of his quarterbacks?
Yeah, obviously, he's elite when it comes to the X's and O's and game planning and play design and stuff like that, and his timing with how he calls certain things is elite as well. But I think what really separates him is his temperament with his quarterbacks and his ability to put his guys in positions to be successful and really cater towards their specific skill set. So I think the way he talks with his quarterbacks and the way he puts them in positions to succeed that's specifically catered to their talents is what really separates him as a quarterback coach.
Yeah, and I got to ask you about your brother Zion. I love the siblings that are on this team. It feels like football really is family here at USC. You guys are doing some cool stuff off the field as well. Tell me about some of the nonprofit work you and Zion are doing.
Yeah, so me and my brother started a nonprofit organization called the Branch Out Foundation, and kind of focuses on homelessness, health and wellness, after-school programs, and just charitable causes to, help the community. That's something that we were always big on as kids and growing up. We would always go to the Salvation Army during the holidays, whether it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, just to, give back to those who are less fortunate, because our parents did a great job, making sure we were blessed enough to have certain things and putting us in the best position to be successful. So it was just something that we always had a heart for and just wanted to give back. And we actually had our first foundation event not too long ago. It was actually pretty fun. It was called the Top Golf Branch Out Classic. So we had a lot of people come out, showed love to us, showed a lot of support, just to help raise money to those who are less fortunate. So that was something that we had a lot of fun doing as a family.
All in your spare time, right? When you're not going to class. And,
oh yeah, for sure.
The all-American freshman that you were. All right, gentlemen, it's great catching up with you. Looking forward to watching you this season. Stay healthy and best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Coach, appreciate you taking out some time. You're in a unique position where you're a coordinator on offense with a head coach who calls the plays. How does that work during the week, game plan-wise, and how does it work on Saturday?
Well, I think it works well because all of us are under the same accord. Our job basically is to make him happy. So we all, and he does a great job of organizing and departmentalizing things to where he could get all of those jobs done. But the biggest thing is, just we have an idea of what he wants offensively, and then, he's able to visit with the quarterbacks and step in and visit with the receivers at times. So, I think it works well for us because we're all on the same page.
Tell us about the competition at quarterback so far.
It's been a really good competition. Both guys have been very impressive. Both guys have had moments where they've done things extremely well. Hadn't been a lot of glaring mistakes. So, we're feeling pretty confident and feeling good about that position.
When you talk about Miller Moss, he's had to be patiently impatient throughout his career. He stayed. He loves this place so much. What have you noticed when he was the backup behind Caleb, how he approached the day-to-day that you saw over the course of the last 2 seasons?
Well, he prepared every day like he was the starter, and I think that's helped him, and I think it showed off in the bowl game. He was able to step in and really not miss a beat because of his preparation and how he looked at going to the game. Miller, in my opinion, is the ideal guy of if you're thinking of, okay, who's a person that is truly unselfish and is really about this university and about this team. Miller would definitely be the person that pitchers and that falls up under that category.
Saw him and Deuce Robinson. They came out to the Elite 11 this summer, and Deuce just kept raving about the type of guy that he was and the infectious nature that he has in his personality. You're on the receivers every single day. How has that group leaned into him? How has Deuce and the second-year players evolved?
Well, I think it's helped. Miller's definitely a team guy, and he's one of those guys with a personality that people want to galvanize around him and hang out with him. And, in doing that, they do things, that doesn't involve the game and as far as football hanging out, but and they do take time when, it's not coaches around, it's just them. And they do work on extra little unspoken cues and things as a few former athlete, you know what I'm talking about in that sense, where they're able to have that unsound communication and be on the same page. So, I think that's helped.
Summer study of video on the traditional Big Ten teams. Any difference between the Big Ten and the Pac-12?
Well, obviously you're going to have bigger guys in the trenches on both sides of the ball. People talk about the speed from the past conference to the new conference. I think, the guys in the new conference run just as well. So, I think, any given Saturday, we're going to have a physical football game, and you're going to have guys out on the perimeter that can run around, so we're going to have to be ready.
What are you most pleased about the offense so far in camp?
The thing that I like about the most about the offense, I think that we're playing more as one accord. You don't have as many glaring busts as far as assignment-wise. Guys are seeming to pick up what we want to do and being on the same page. Now, there are some mistakes that's being made out there, but at least if you're on the same page and guys are playing hard, you're able to overcompensate that sometimes.
Your receiving core, some of them had a coming out party in the bowl game that you referenced earlier. What have you noticed now? Everybody knows Zachariah Branch, but Jacoby Lane, Deuce Robinson, Mekhi Lemon, these guys that are going to take over the reins at this position you coach.
I think the bowl game gave them the confidence that they needed that, hey, I am that guy and I can do this. So I think that's carried over in the offseason and is carried over in the summer. A lot of those guys, with the help of our nutrition staff and our strength staff, is changed their bodies drastically. So we've come into camp healthy, physical, and there's a lot of healthy competition going around. We got guys that are ready to play.
All right, well, stay healthy, and we'll see you this fall. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me.
Of the Trojans now, Lincoln Riley, Yogi Roth, I'm Ashley Adamson. Coach, you look at the names. I know you get asked about quarterbacks all the time, and we're going to talk about fall camp here, but what is it? Is there something when you think about the way that you've coached that position and obviously the young men that you've been able to mentor, what is it that has allowed you to connect with them and get the best out of them at that position?
Well, it starts with the players that we've had. Just been lucky to coach some phenomenal players, some phenomenal workers, competitors, guys that were passionate about the game and getting better and getting coached and their team. The other thing, obviously, their teammates. You don't win Heismans on bad football teams. And so we've had some great teams along the years, just some great moments, championships, all those great things that have happened, and occasionally individual awards are a part of that. So we got a system that we believe in, a way of coaching that position that we believe in. It's not perfect, but it's given us some good success so far, and we're always trying to build to make it better.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Miller Moss said it's also your personality, that you never get too high and too low, and so that allows him to have the confidence to go out there, and he's not worried about making a mistake. Curious what you've seen from him. We all saw what he was able to do in the Holiday Bowl in his first career start. What have you seen in camp from Miller?
He's handled it well. I thought he handled just the lead up, obviously we talked some after spring ball, but then, the off season is really where the team really starts to come together. And those guys have obviously got to do their own work, but certainly there's an element to leading the team and spearheading the charge. And so I feel like he's done a great job. He's handled it well so far in camp. He continues to grow as a leader, get more confident as a player, and it's a really good room right now. And Jaden Maeva has come a long ways, which we knew he would make a jump, or felt like he would after the spring and him getting used to our offense. Jake Jensen has done a great job as well. So Miller's been great. It's a great room, fun room to coach, a lot of great competition.
Okay, so you guys, year one, you're here, lightning in a bottle. All of a sudden, catch the nation by storm. Last year was a little bit of challenging. I look at your team and I'm like, this seems like a foundational year for the program. The way you've recruited, how the staff has turned over. Is that accurate? And if so, how do you feel about the foundation that you've laid here in year three?
I do. I think every year is very important. I think it was important to get off to a really good start in the beginning, and we were able to do that. And now's the time where you really start climbing and start building. We've done a lot of things. We were just talking off camera about the facility that we're building. Obviously, getting ready to go into this new great conference. We've made some staff changes. We've made adjustments along the way. We fixed some of the things that needed fixing here, and now it's truly kind of that time to build. And so it is. It's an important year for a lot of reasons, and I think the most important is this is kind of our one shot at it. Every team you get that 1 year and that one shot, and then it's over. And so you just we try to remind the team, and I try to remind our staff these aren't unlimited. You don't get many of these. And so player, coach, whatever, you better be ready to make the most of it and put your heart and soul into it, and that's what we've tried to do.
Yeah, I'm curious about that, 'cause I think living in LA, and you've been here now a couple years, it's different than anywhere else in the world. The expectations, the spotlight, the hype, the real hype, the hype that might not be that real. How do you think this team has handled all of that after the bowl that you guys went through, kind of a bonus of spring practice, how this thing has come together, and even the new faces that have just showed up?
Well, I do think there was a lot of momentum off the bowl game, some of the staff changes that we made, all that's happened. But I also think, this team to me seems to put all that off to the side and really try to stay focused on themselves. And I think that's what the best teams do. And you're right. Is it more challenging to do it in a city like this where everybody on the planet is watching what you're doing, whether they love you, whether they hate you, whether they're neutral? Everybody pays attention to what's happening with USC football, like some of our other great sports teams here in Los Angeles. And so I think the great competitors love that. You want that stage, you want that opportunity, and then you've obviously got to go put in the work to make the most of it. And I feel like this team has been very focused on that from really the day that the regular season ended last year.
Coach, you know that Yogi is big into vision boards and dream boards. I'm sure you know that. And I love the story that you've told about that you kind of created your own dream board of defensive coaches that you wanted to go hire. And there were 7 names you came up with, and you hired 4 of them. Talk to me about what you've seen, because it is such a unique staff. You could put it up against any defensive staff in the country, but obviously highlighted by Lynn, your defensive coordinator.
I've been really proud of that group, just the way they've come together. It's I've compared it you go see some teams in the NBA and they go sign 3 unbelievable all NBA max contract players, and their teams aren't any good. There's still got to be cohesion. There's still got to be teamwork. You still got to be able to fit together, work off each other, have each other's backs. All of those things that make coming together as a group important and valuable. And I think that's been the thing I've been most impressed with. I knew these guys individually were good at their jobs. They've proven that. How can they come together as one and try to be the best? Because we're not trying to be the best individual coaches in the country. We're trying to be the best defensive staff in the country. And I feel like our guys have embraced it, and they've used their experiences to help us come together, to help one another. So yeah, proud of that, proud of the way that's happened. We'll continue to get challenged. Our defensive staff is going to continue to get challenged as you get in the season, like we all do. But I love the fact that these guys have been here before. They know what success looks like at every level, and having that experience in the room is invaluable.
And something that has really stood out to me, at least watching practice and even this past spring, it's the second-year guys. Right, 6 offensive linemen, a bunch of guys, whether they're sophomores or it's their second year here, like Anthony Lucas, guys that, especially a wide receiver, I think they're not getting enough play nationally. What have you noticed about that group, and is that going to be a group that you think will propel this program to the expectations you have?
Well, that's one of the things about this time, and you asked about this year being important. We haven't had that the first few years. You come to the next year, but there was no young group that you've been developing. It's all right, we're just trying to fill it, and we're trying to add. And so now to have some true development going on in this program, guys are taking those steps, and they should. But we've had to work hard, obviously, to recruit and develop those guys, whether they've played or it's been behind the scenes. And I do think a lot of the excitement within the walls, the people in the know, the people that see it every day, is because of that, and we finally have some semblance of that, and that'll continue to go through the years. But you're right, there's a lot of guys that have, whether they're freshmen, whether they're older, guys that have now been with us, have taken those steps, and you see the light bulb coming on, right? And that's, as a coach, that's one of the most exciting things.
Well, Lincoln, I can tell you we've been around this program a long time, but the excitement within those walls that you just mentioned, it's palpable. You can feel it. We appreciate the access today and wishing you the best moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
Okay, Coach, obnoxious communication, shocking effort, and attack the football. Those have been pillars wherever you've been, and now here after arriving in the past spring for spring ball. How has it been through a week and a half of training camp around those 3 tenets?
It's been good. You go back and you watch the end of spring ball, and then you look at where we're at right now in camp. I'd say all 3 of those categories, they've been getting better and better each day. Is it where it needs to be week 1? No, but it's gotten better and better each day.
It seems like you have always had a purposeful and methodical way to teach. Not rapidly give them everything, but make sure that they can thrive at whatever you give them. This group has some experience, has a couple guys that came from where you were last year. Where do you net out where they are with the entirety of the playbook that you hope to install?
Starting in the spring, you really didn't know the group, so we started very, very slow. But then as you get to know the guys, having some guys from UCLA helped. We have some seniors who have been in different schemes, have had different coordinators. So for them, it was a lot of similarities. So we were able to speed the process up some. And then this camp, we've been able to speed it up some.
Coach, I don't know if you remember this, but we covered you as a player at Penn State, first year of the Big Ten Network.
I do. I remember that.
And Howard Griffith sends his best. So when you say fix the defense, everyone says Coach Lynn's been hired to fix the defense. What does that mean? How do you fix it?
We're just looking for daily improvements, as far as improvements in understanding of the scheme, improvements with our techniques, fundamentals, improvements for how we study offenses and just our overall football IQ. And if we can just keep on getting better and better every day, we know at the end of the year we're going to like where we're at, but that doesn't just end at the end of camp. We have to keep on getting better all throughout fall. We can't be the same team week 1 that we are week 10.
As you do your off-season study and watch the Big Ten teams, is there any significant difference between the Big Ten and the SEC? The Pac-12?
When you watch the Big Ten, it does feel more like the NFL with the personnel groups that you get, with the size, with the style of play. But at the same time, you're still going to get the spread teams that you got in the Pac-12. So I think it's a very tough conference because you have to defend everything, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Areas where you feel good about your depth and maybe some spots where you're a little bit more concerned?
Depth-wise, like you said, we have a good group of older guys, and we feel really good about our seniors. And depth-wise, I would just say, outside in corner, we behind our seniors, we have some very talented young kids, and they've been developing at a fast pace, but they're going to need to continue to develop this fall because, it's going to be their seat next year.
Anthony Lucas, you look at him coming off the edge. Easton, Mascarenas-Arnold in the middle of this defense, and Kamari Ramsey, 3 new additions to this defense this past spring. How have they at each layer grown within your scheme in training camp, and are they true impact players?
I mean, they've helped us out a lot. Having having Achille, having Easton, having Kamari through the center of your defense, just from a communication standpoint, a football IQ standpoint, it makes it a lot easier on us as a staff, the stuff that we can do. And then Anthony, you watched him last year compared to this year. Coach Newell and Coach Henderson have done a great job with him. He's going to be one of our more versatile guys up front, and he's been outstanding so far.
Who are some of your leaders on defense?
Some of our, I would say Achille, and I would say Easton and Jamil. Those three stick out the most. Jamil's been here. Easton and Achille, they just got here in the spring, but they got here around the same time as me. If I didn't know that they just got here, I would have thought they've been here for 5-6 years.
Looking forward to watching this defense. Can't wait to watch Eric Gentry
as
well. I mean, he seems to just be one of the most unique players in the country at 6'6", playing inside linebacker.
Haven't quite coached a guy like him. You can play him in a lot of different positions, and he's a very instinctive guy. So we're gonna have some fun with him this year.
I love it. Can't wait. We'll be calling week 2 against Utah State. We'll be back in town. Coach, thanks for the time and welcome back to the Big Ten.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Me now, Easton Mascarenas-Arnold from Oregon State, and Jamil Muhammad, who this is your second fall camp. So veteran presence, but relatively new here to USC. I'm going to start with you because you decided to come back for another year. You said you had some things that you wanted to finish. What has the energy been like on the defensive side of the ball? Have you noticed a difference?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You speak on energy, and it's kind of hard not to see it, across the board. Honestly, on offense, defense, special teams. But it's been awesome. I mean, we've had a lot of great energy coming in on defense. I mean, from newer guys like Easton and just other guys like Achille and Kamari. So it's been awesome, and we've been creating a different camaraderie around the whole team. So it's been awesome.
Easton, what's it been like for you? And you can answer this question as well, Jamil, because when you come in and you have a veteran presence and you're here, you're bringing in some leadership, but you're also the new guy in the locker room and trying to feel your way around. So what was it like coming back to Southern California along with your brother and trying to find your way in this locker room? Because it's clear from everyone I've talked to that you've made an immediate impact.
It was an adjustment for sure. I think when I first got here, Achille and I both didn't want to come in the spring and kind of set a precedent that we're coming in on. Because we're the new guys, like you said. So we came in just trying to really build trust with the guys through our work ethic, try to prove to the guys that we could play here, that, we're move as we, not as just Achille and I coming in together. So I think it was a good adjustment, something that we needed. I think it was time for a little bit of change in both of our careers, and I'm excited to be on this defense.
I'm sure you've had some expectations about what the experience would be like. What has been different or what has been the same as compared to what you thought it was going to be here at USC?
I really had no expectation in the portal. At least I just wanted to go somewhere I felt like I was needed and a place that someone really wanted me. And I felt like the trend that USC was on, Achille and I both really liked it. Coach Riley, good in the recruiting process, showed a really family-oriented system and community around here. And just being here for the 7 months that we have, I think they've shown that to us firsthand, not just in recruiting. When they show you what you want to see, I think they lived up to what they said and all that.
Talk a lot about the body transformations going on around here. You put on some muscle in the offseason, 1,400 pounds as a team overall is what I'm told, which is a ridiculous stat. Tell me about the mindset, because you guys are going in the Big Ten. There's going to be a different level of physicality. Give me a sense for the mindset of this team and how'd you add all that weight?
Right. I mean, it was just a team effort. I'm sure Easy can speak on it as well. But Coach Wiley, his biggest thing to us was just win every rep. And when you win every rep, you most likely will win every day. Although you don't want to think about the other team, but you also want to remember that they are also doing the same thing that you're doing. So it's kind of like everybody's going to work out for 2 hours. Everybody's going to practice for 2 hours. What are you going to do with the other 22 hours in your day? So I think that was just the biggest thing that I took from it and some of the other guys.
Your journey is amazing, and maybe a lot of people may not know that you started off as a quarterback at Vanderbilt. That was the original plan, and then you went to Georgia State, went to the other side of the ball. Having been a former quarterback, how does that impact the way you play your position?
Initially, I started off thinking too much, being on the defensive side of the ball, kind of doing some of the wrong things, not doing my job, trying to do somebody else's first. But now that I've gotten comfortable with the defensive side of the ball, this being my fourth year playing, I've been, I feel like I've been better, not only for myself but for my teammates as well. Just being able to make guys, life easier, like Easy and other guys that play around me. So, the more we do that, the more we complement the offense.
I know you don't take for granted any moments that you get to spend with your teammates and especially your brother. How special is it to be here with him?
I think it's truly just a blessing. It's kind of like he said in a previous interview a year ago. It's like a dream come true. Like to be able to play not only high school and at our previous university, and then somehow, God willing, we were able to end up at another university at the same time is. I think it's just, like I said, nothing short of a blessing.
Yeah, football is family, and in that case, it is literally true for you guys. Real quick before we go, the thing that is going to separate this season from being a good season to a great season is going to be what?
Mindset. I feel like whether we have a great play, a bad play, a great day or a bad day, I think you have to be cognizant of how you respond. And we had some guys here this week, from the Marines, and their thing on responsibility was the ability to be able to respond. And you got to have that across the board, not just leaders, not just people who, quote unquote, aren't leaders, but like every guy on the team, you have to have that. You got to have that, I guess you can say, hidden talent or whatever. Because the more you can do that, the teams who do that the best, the teams who win. So.
Awesome. Can't wait to watch you guys stay healthy, enjoy the rest of camp, and September 1st will be here before we know it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Ashley, back with you. And guys, I think that was the thing that's been the knock in Lincoln Riley's first 2 years is what is the defense? Can the defense catch up with the offense? And it feels different. What did you notice out there in practice today, Coach?
I think they're a little behind the offense. I think right now this is a better offensive team than defensive team. At the line of scrimmage, again, I think the offense is ahead. I think Coach Lynn's got a huge job, and I think the offense has to help him with time of possession and the way the game is being managed. They've got good players. It's a matter of time because this program can recruit the best players in the country year in and year out, and it takes longer to build the defense than it does to build an offense. Coach Lynn's the right guy, but he's going to have to be patient.
I know coaches like you don't love the word potential, but that's when I see this defense, Ash, that's what I see, right? Anthony Lucas, can he be that guy? God, he looks the part in year 2 in the system. Bear Alexander, can he be that guy that he was at times last year? How about Solomon Tuliaupupu? Practiced that a couple times, Coach, in his 7th year, finally healthy, playing on the edge, playing some defensive tackle. Like I kind of like the size that they have inside. We just have to see it when they get onto the field. The one thing we do know about this defense is that it's based, think of the Ravens way back in the year, the Rex Ryan back in the day. It's going to try to create some chaos. So you have a guy like Eric Gentry who can be all everything. He's 6'6" with a 7'6" wingspan. He could play linebacker, he could play the edge, he could drop in coverage. We've seen him do all those things. I just look forward to watching what that potential eventually becomes when they play LSU in week 1 and so on and so forth throughout the season.
Well, recruiting rankings tell us that they've got the potential. There's no doubt. They just need to grow a little bit. I'm not going to use that name a lot. I got you. I'm more Smith and Jones kind of guy.
Stick with what you know. I do think that one of the interesting things as you look at this defense and what Dance and Lynn brings is there's a renewed energy and kind of a confidence and belief in what they are capable of. You can tell it in just even talking to the players. What is the strength of this defense, Yogi, and where do you think the biggest question mark is?
I think the strength of this defense is the mindset, as Jamil referenced. Like, this team has a nice little edge about them. You watch practice today. It was a long practice. It was a physical practice. They know what happened a year ago, and we called a bunch of those games. They gave up big play after big play. I think this team is out for a little chip. And I think in this scheme, we saw it at UCLA last year with Coach Lynn, it's a very sound group. Now, they don't have Liatu Latu coming off the edge, who was a first-round pick, but they've got some players that I think can play really good team defense. Easton Mascarenas-Arnold, like he's told us, the middle of that defense got a lot better over the course of the last 6 months, and watching them in spring, watching them today, I think the strength is going to be the pack. Their challenge is going to be the depth. The competitive depth that SC has now is not necessarily what we saw at Ohio State or at Oregon, and that's going to be their challenge because the schedule's brutal.
I think the front seven had a good day today. During the team periods, I thought they kept the ball inside and front. They very rarely lost leverage on the ball. The back end at times against Lincoln Riley's offense struggled, but I thought the front seven really had a good day.
One last thing. I'm going to get on my high horse here for a minute because I think the country sometimes lights up USC just because they're SC. And I look at this defense, Ash, they did everything you could ask, right? They flipped the staff for the most part. They add in new players that we just referenced. Like, let's give them a shot. Let's watch him play. Let's watch him grow. Let's watch him develop. And then you can make your assessment out where SC is in 2024.
I think the positive sign during the season should be that the players they've recruited the last 2 years really start to come in. Because, again, they can recruit anybody and they can recruit the best.
I loved what Lincoln Riley said about they bring in an all-star staff on defense, and you don't know how they're going to, play in the sandbox together And he said that's been one of the cool things is the chemistry. And they bring just such unique experience and talent and at all different levels of college football and head coaching and assistants. So it's going to be fun to see how this thing all comes together. All good things must end, guys. We're approaching the home stretch here in Los Angeles. I know you've got some waves to go catch, Jerry, in just a few. Get you out on that surfboard. Yep. September 21st. That's one that we all have circled on our calendars. I can imagine the big house is going to be jumping.
That's some kind of schedule, seriously. I mean, there's not many teams in the country playing that schedule. It's been a great stop, and appreciate Lincoln Riley letting us in and watching practice. It's clearly, to me, an offensive-driven program, and that's not unusual when the head coach calls the plays. I mean, you could look at Florida when Steve Spurrier was there, so it's got an offensive feel to it. Coach Lynn, I think, has a major rebuild. I mean, some of the young players are going to come on. And so they've got some work to do, but again, they can recruit the best players in the country, and there's no reason that they can't have as talented of a roster as we go forward as anybody else in the country, bar none. They can have as good a recruiting class as anybody.
I'm going to double down on what we said to start the show. It's a foundational year for the program. So what does that mean? That means that I think the foundation is firm. It is strong. It is set. It is not just an elite player in Caleb Williams or some transfers that came in that solidify a certain group of positions. I think the foundation is really good with the second-year players that Lincoln Riley referenced. Now, to your point, the beginning of the schedule is challenging. I could see it go either way for this team. I love the back end, though, Ash. After October 19th, they never leave the Pacific time zone. They go to UW. Then they play at UCLA across town. Like, I think the back end of this team, as they continue to get through that gauntlet in the beginning, I think look out. Like, they're going to be a tough out for everybody because they're going to score. The defense will be better. Schedule, to your point, nobody probably voted for this one necessarily in this facility, but this is what they got. And I do think that this team's trying to attack that.
You know, we talked in our offensive segment I talked about the offensive line. They have the ability to be a good running team. And so, especially early in the year, you know, if you're throwing the ball so much where the clock's stopping and you're going to put your defense out there for a bunch, it might be a difficult start. They've been ranked 4th in the conference and 15th in the country the last 2 years of Lincoln Riley's recruiting classes. That's going to continue. So this is kind of a restart, not only for the defense, but I have a feeling that this staff understands that they are in a place that there is no ceiling.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley has said that. He said all of the changes and everything that's going on, that we are as set up as well as anyone in the nation to win here. The mantra we heard pop up around USC last year was the longer we go, the better we get. And that notion of wanting to get better all the way through finishing the fourth quarter of the game, finishing the final end of the season. And we didn't see that last year. They lost 5 of their last 6 to close out the year, but maybe their schedule is set up to finish strong this year. What is your realistic expectation? If you're a UC fan talking to them right now, what do you see in year 3 under Lincoln Riley?
Well, I don't look at any game on the schedule and say they can't win it. I'll tell you that. I don't believe that in one iota. I don't look at the schedule and say, yeah, they're going to roll and expect them to be 12-0 either. I think they're going to be in a lot of battles. You talked to Jamil Muhammad. He talked about the Marines coming in and talking about the responsibility that you have to show up for your teammate. He talked about the 2 hours of practice. What do you do with the other 22? That's going to be the thing. Because I think whenever you've had an elite player on your team, and they did last year, Caleb Williams is the best quarterback I've ever seen in my college football career. He made up for a lot of mistakes. And I think there was a point with their team calling some of those games where they just wanted Superman to show up. And oftentimes he did, right? Triple overtime against Arizona, on the road against Cal. Like, he did that. This team doesn't have that. So I think this is one of the better, quote-unquote, teams we've seen since Lincoln Riley has gotten here. He talked about that in the bowl game and how that helped in bowl prep because so many guys sat out, opted to not play in that bowl game. You add in a couple of the key transfers on the defensive line, at wide receiver. I think it's just really helped out the culture of this thing. And, look, you can do whatever you want in college football, but 2 things win games. It's culture and how competitive is your leadership. And I think those elements around leadership and culture as strong as they've been since Lincoln Riley got here.
I think it's realistic. We've talked about the toughest games on the schedule, right? You read them, you pointed them out. I think realistic is I win all those other games. Not that I can't win those big games that you mentioned, but I think in this time, in this program, they can't lose a game that they have better players than. They can't lose a game that they're favored to win at this part of the development. And I'm not saying they can't win them all. Just, I'm not putting any ceiling on them. I'm just saying that as a coach, you'd have to feel good about every time I have a better roster, I win the games. And then all the other games, we'll take a shot at them.
I loved what Lincoln said in our spring meetings, talking about how when big-time quarterbacks that get a lot of attention, sometimes when they leave a program, it galvanizes the team because they want to point out, like, hey, there was more to it than just Caleb Williams. So we'll see how this team comes together as they join the Big Ten. Gentlemen, it's been great hanging out with you, as always. But the training camp tour, it rolls on. We've got, 6 more stops to go up next. We're going to Lincoln, Nebraska. Huskers feeling excited about year 2 under Matt Rule. Dave Revson and the guys will have you covered on Wednesday. But it's been a great couple days here in L.A. Want to give a big shout out to everybody at USC, especially Katie Ryan, and, of course, all the players who spent some time with us. That does it. Thanks for watching. So long from USC.